Today's webinar is about why cyber criminals are smarter than we think they are. A study in future crime and how we can stop it. Innovation has been around for a while now, and every time there's an innovation it gives everybody an advantage. Businesses use innovation to gain an advantage over their opposition and their competition. Advantages through the use of cutting edge ideas. But is it? The bad guys, the criminals, the cyber criminals have already seen the innovation and adapted it to their criminal requirements. Honest people are always playing catch up. Honest people are always reactive. We have seen phenomenal growth in technology in the last 30 years. Technological growth is not linear, it's exponential. The reason for that growth is technology builds on technology, information and systems, anything available at the time that will make something better. 30 linear steps is here to the door. 30 exponential steps is here to the moon. So 30 years since the introduction of the internet as a linear timeline is equivalent to more than 10,000 years exponential growth in technology. Speaking of the moon, the whole of the NASA at the time of the first landing had less computing power than a single iPhone 4. Now that is phenomenal. That's the point we've got to. We can now cover enough information or carry around enough information in our pocket than what Neil did to land on the moon. So a little history about cybercrime. In the old days it was man on man. One person stealing from one person. We then added stagecoaches, trains, banks, and one person stealing from a number of people. The Sony hack in 2011 was one person stealing from 70 million people. Now that's what I call an exponential growth in crime. Mobile phones. In the 80s we saw this influx of the mobile phone and pagers. It wasn't just the CEOs or doctors and those type of people who were using them. The criminals were using them. They were giving them to their lolly little people who were working lookouts on corners so they could do their drug deals without the police getting involved. In 1990 we had a Mexican drug lord that got sick of law enforcement breaking up his drug gangs and everything else, so he built his own mobile phone system. Towers, phones, SIM cards, encrypted data, the whole bit. All across all 30 states of Mexico, and it took a long time for law enforcement to get through the system to find out what was going on. In 2008, the Mumbai terrorist attack in the Raj Hotel. Everybody else like me wonder why it took so long for them to get caught? Well, one of the big things was, yes, they had the normal things of guns and explosives and grenades, and they were just going around killing people indiscriminately, but they had GPSs, they had night vision goggles, they had mobile phones. But most importantly, and this is where they took a leaf out of the US government's way of fighting wars, they had an operations centre. That operations centre was in Pakistan, and it told the bad guys where the good guys were. Told them how to get around roadblocks, how the best way of getting into hotels. All of that sort of stuff came from them. So it made it a lot easier for them to do what they wanted to do. But that was normal criminals and terrorists. What about cyber criminals? Well, the Android phone. September 2008, we saw the release of the HTC Dream. Google Android's newest innovation that they were bringing out. At the same time, the Android market went live. Now, people started downloading applications from the market. One of the big applications they started downloading was the mobile phone apps for banking. Now, these were all of the banking apps. Citibank, HSBC, Wells Fargo, all of those type of people. And what was happening was people would then ring up the bank and say, I just downloaded your mobile app and it doesn't work. 50,000 of these banks' apps were downloaded in the first month. All of them were fake. Because the criminals had been on the beta curve when the whole thing was being developed. They had saw the opportunities of what was the best way to go. And these were how they got around some of the systems that were already in place. Today, everybody has a flashlight app on their phone. Well, most people have a flashlight app on their phone, both Android and iOS. 75% of them have some malware component to it. Now, you can usually tell if they've got a malware component by the simple fact that they'll ask you for a location. Now, why do you leave a location when the lights are off and all you want to do is see where you're going? That's what you've got to be aware of. In that time, the development of viruses also become exponential. From the first virus that was developed for the original Apple, and that's where they've got the dubious reputation. They didn't get many afterwards, but they are now getting them more now, to Stuxnet and Duco and Flame. Now, Stuxnet, Duco and Flame, these are viruses that have some level of intelligence behind them. Stuxnet only attacks a specific type of environment. There are an average of 70,000 new viruses or new derivatives of viruses found every day. This is by places like Kaspersky and Symantec and all these people who go out of their way to find them. All viruses target a specific vulnerability in an operating system, in applications and utilities. That's why they develop them. They know there's a vulnerability in an application, and this is how they get around it. But then there are the low-level attacks that people don't think are serious, using technology, social engineering, and luck. Spear phishing attacks are laser-guided. The RSA hack in 2010 is a classic example of a specifically targeted spear phishing attack. It was targeted at a specific group of people within RSA. But it works just as well. What about places like Qantas Lounge, coffee shops, all of that sort of stuff? These are all prime targets for cyber criminals. That was the present, that was the past. What about the present? Well, recently Diverse IT was a large ISP web hosting environment in Sydney. In 2011, they were hacked. They had 33,000 websites, they had 220,000 domain names registered. From total control to losing everything, the initial attack was 30 minutes, final failure of the whole system was 7 days. And they literally sat back and could not do anything about it. They couldn't stop it from happening. They lost everything, including lines of credit. That's what they are after. This is what the bad guys are after. Anybody ever heard of Vijay Kumar? Now, he's a developer in the US who is on the robotics side, right? Robotics is huge. It really is. It's what drives the drones, and it's the thing that makes the next step of intelligent life come about. Now, Kumar has developed a 4-prop robot. Now, these are robots. They're not radio controlled. They are spatially aware. You put one of them and he'll do whatever you want. On the video, he releases one into the auditorium he's talking. While he's doing the complete talk, this thing comes back, lands on his hand, and you have a complete plan of what the whole auditorium was, where people were sitting, and who they were. Now, that is frightening in itself. But these things are so spatially aware, you put 2 of them, they form a box. Correction, if you put 4 of them, they form a box. Put 16, they could form 4 boxes of 4. And they work out how they get through things. Like if you tell them to go from here to here through that hole, they will work out how to do it. Because they are robots, they are not radio controlled. Now, in early 2013, they've developed them so they are now capable of carrying 2 kilos in weight. Now, 2 kilos in weight doesn't seem like very much, but it's $500,000 in cocaine. 2 kilos of explosives could put a hole in this building. So we've got to think of the bad guys criminalising everything that we do as we go forward. The ability to download hacking tools means that a determined 12-year-old with some basic skills can become a successful hacker in a very short space of time. For the more advanced, there are cybercrime black markets that sell personal data, credit card information, passwords, tools, successful and proven exploits. Criminals rent botnets, which are robotic networks, from cybercriminal underworld, and even purchase complete online stores to collect information or to sell the bogus products. These are script kiddies, using predefined systems, software and information created by others to attack people on the internet. They are a serious problem because they are out there using automated systems that target exploits. They're not targeting you, they are targeting your system that you are using. Because of them, everybody who uses the internet and uses a front-facing system to the internet is vulnerable. So mobile phones, tablets, computers, cloud-based systems, they are all targets. Now an example of this came to light in late 2012, where for $4,000 American, you can purchase a malware and spyware creator. All packaged up, comes in a box. You have to be able to speak and read Russian and have to have a willing to partake in a criminal check to make sure you are a criminal. But it comes with everything you need to be a cyber criminal, including a guarantee and 24/7 tech support. You can ring them anytime and say, I'm writing this bit of code to do this, but it doesn't seem to be working. What do I have to do to make it work? Wow, that's frightening in itself. This is a very competitive market with price wars, guarantees and special offers. Each criminal organisation in cyberspace wants to be the one making the most money. Hacking has become big business, not only because the internet is now where the money is, but because most networks, despite claims to the contrary, are inadequately defended. But the big problem is not those guys. The big problem is the black hats, the real hackers, the ones that actually know what they are doing and have ways of getting around security, destroying your business, stealing your money and compromising your identity. They're the people we've got to be really aware of. It is a well-known fact that events of global interest are exploited by cyber criminals' financial gains. Natural disasters are a golden opportunity for cyber criminals and cyber vandals whose main aim is to make a profit, even if it means exploiting other people's misery. Now that came from Eugene Kaspersky just prior to Fukushima. Now, the reason why I bring it up, Fukushima nuclear power plant, when it had its meltdown, there was a lot of stuff going on in the background, and it was pretty frightening if on the ground. But did you know what was happening on the internet? So, March 11, 2011, we had the tidal wave and the earthquake and everything started going backwards. On March the 12th, the first life-jacking. Now, life-jacking is where you inject information into other people's feeds on Facebook. And they started appearing on Facebook. March 14, there was a massive black SEO campaign. Search engine optimization. 1.7 million malware-infected pages were removed by Google in that period of time, on one day. It was at the time, it was the biggest one that had ever happened. In that time, there was a fake Red Cross Twitter campaign to gain money. March the 15th, fake Japanese donation groups started appearing on Facebook. Now, because of the situation, everybody wanted to help, and they were all willing to give money away. But also the criminals knew this. On March 16, there was a massive spam email with links to malicious sites. It was started, kept it going for another three to 4 days. And on March 17, there was a crowdfunding set up. Crowdfunding is where you ask people to donate money and then you can use it for whatever the crowdfunding is for. They set it up to help save the Japanese, went straight into the criminals' pockets. This is what they mean by these things are, the bad guys take advantage of us because we are soft-natured, we want to help people. They are so sophisticated that in 2012 a criminal organisation in the Ukraine set itself up as a marketing company. Straight marketing company. The trouble is they were selling software and websites that were all malware infected. You remember the FBI virus that came out in 2012? Well, this organisation was the ones behind it. They had legitimate offices and they paid taxes. They paid taxes on 500 million euros in revenue. They had all the correct staffing, including a call centre. When the FBI, if you remember about the FBI virus, if you got the virus, you were given a phone number that you could ring and they would remove it for a cost, of course. Okay, that's what they were running the call centre for. Only 5% of the people in the business knew they were doing something illegal because they ran it as a business. The bad guys are coming, okay? Not only are they coming, but most of the time they're already here. The future is pretty murky unless we do something about it. The bad guys are developing more and more sophisticated ways of gaining access to your systems and information. The bad guys are smart, the bad guys are persistent, the bad guys are well educated. But they don't have to be that well educated, they just have to be more educated than their targets. And to tell you the truth, the bad guys are a pain in the arse. Because of them, it is their easy money stream. So we have to find ways to stop them. The bad guys gain access to all of our systems using a variety of ways. They use viruses, malware, spyware, ransomware, rats, remote access trojans, and focused hacking attacks. So the black hat's coming in and targeting a specific thing. They have sophisticated command and control systems so that they can handle their botnets and everything else. They use and create botnets so that, and a botnet is a group of computers that have been infected with malware that is controlled by someone else. Now, between themselves, they use encrypted communication systems, which are very hard for law enforcement to get past. Not impossible, but very hard. They also rent cloud space. They use supercomputer cycles to build some of their malware, and they use botnets. And all of this is done with stolen credit cards. And most of the time, they pay each other in bitcoins, which is an internet-based financial system that has a finite version of coins. In that time, they started off with a 1 million, they've still got 1 million. But when they started off with 1 million, it was $1 million. Now, one Bitcoin is $1,250. So it's quite a good thing for them. If that doesn't work, they use social engineering and industrial espionage. They use USBs in car parks. And everyone is their target. Now, if you found a USB drive in your car park or in your driveway, what would you do with it? Well, from a study that Kaspersky did, 50% of people would plug it in. And 80% of people would plug it in if it had a definitive logo that they knew. So if it was a Google one or if it was an RSA one. So that's what they do. Just going back to that, I had a friend of mine who was in Las Vegas recently and they found a USB drive in the car park. Now, most people, if they found something like that, would turn it in to reception. And the whole target behind the USB drive that she brought back was to target one of the casinos, to get into one of the casinos. Now, all it would have taken was little receptionist to get this and get given it and then told, can you plug this in and find out if there's any information about it so we can return it to the owner. Now, it was so cleverly done that it had a group of pictures on there. And those group of pictures were old pictures, as in scanned 1930s, 1940s pictures. So they were working on the principle that, yes, it looked like a legitimate USB, but there was something else going on in the background. So what do they want? Well, they want your money. Most importantly, they want your money. They want any of your ideas and they want your intellectual property and they want everybody's information. Staff, users, management, clients, and they want little bits of information because this little bit and that little bit starts to take on your internet persona. Once they have that, they trade the information with their illegal friends. And there's a huge market out there. A confirmed credit card number with name and security code will net anywhere from $20 to $350, depending on the number and the viability. So what's the cost to everybody? It's a $1 trillion industry worldwide. As I said, it's where the money is. The actual loss of intellectual property cannot be measured. There was recently a Four Corners documentary on an Australian company that had a specific type of IP. Their salesperson went to China, plugged into a hotel network with no encryption. Everything that was on his laptop was stolen. 3 months after that, bogus hardware items that they made started appearing on the market. Now, to a business, you spend a lot of R&D getting to the level where you can produce a product. And that R&D is usually factored into the sale of the item. So it might have cost you $1 million, you're going to shift 1 million units, so that R&D becomes one part of the cost. But if you don't have to do that, the people who stole the information can now manufacture exactly what you've done without all the R&D costs, and they can come in at 30, 20, 100% less than what you're already charging. They then corner the market with your knowledge. You've just lost everything. On top of that, there's an unaccountable number of lives destroyed because of what happens. Again, the bad guys against the bad guys, how do we hope to protect ourselves? We have to protect ourselves, your staff, users and clients, your assets, your personal business information, your knowledge, all of the information that makes your business work as a business. We also have to protect the innocent, the unaware, the uneducated and the ill-informed. These are the ones with the most to lose, but they are also the easiest to bring up to a level of awareness. Everybody heard of the Internet of Everything? Well, the Internet of Everything is the direction the Internet is going. At the moment, we have IP version 4, which is now being upgraded to IP version 6. IP version 4 has 4.25 billion addresses on it. IP version 6 has this many addresses on it. And if you really want to get technical, it's that words. 340 udecillion, yeah, alright, lots. Why is this important? Well, everything is coming out with the ability to have an IP address configured to it. So fridges, air conditioners, subsystems on cars, SIM cards and RFID chips, and even now they've got a computer that is 2mm by 2mm that has an IP address. So it makes everything everything internet based, makes everything internet aware, and then creates even more problems. So what it does is it increases your business's threat vectors. So recently, a large national defense company in Dallas was compromised. Now, the IT manager at this place was an absolute Nazi. Things couldn't get out, couldn't get in, all of that sort of stuff, and you had to get permission to run certain things. He narrowed on his investigation, he narrowed all of their lost information down to the boardroom, because the information that was being found on the internet was being at that level. He assumed it was the phone system or an insider, and he took the necessary steps. He removed the phone. What he didn't know was it was in fact a compromised air conditioner that had been turned into a listening device. Now, they didn't have to get in to do that. All they did was crack the software that runs the air conditioner, find out how to get into the chip that dials home when it needs to have its filters cleaned, and change the environment that was there. They can do that. They are clever. They are persistent. Maybe we need some sort of guru, but maybe not this guy. Now, I consider the internet a very dangerous place. I compare it to walking down a dark alley with your hands and feet shackled, a large amount of money in your wallet, and a large neon sign saying "rob me." And I think everybody should have that attitude. So how do we protect ourselves? Well, we need to start somewhere. So we need a holistic system with more than one component. We need a system of interlocking components working together to create an environment that is safe and secure. So we need a framework. But which framework? There are lots of frameworks out there. And what happens is people get bogged down because they are too technical, or they are too in-depth, or they are too uncontrollable, or they are too expensive. And that's the other thing that comes up a lot. So we need a simple framework. A simple and easy way to secure the business environment. A system that grows with your business. A system that allows your future requirements and technology to be plugged into it without changing the underlying structure. And a system that includes the 4 pillars of business security. They are technology, all of those technology components of a business. The things that you might be really interested in using. So firewalls and operating systems, applications, encryption, cloud-based and BYOD, bring your own device, wireless and VPN, antivirus, and wrapping all of that up is best practices. How do you use the firewall? How do you set up next generation firewall rules? Those are best practice. The next side of it is management. We need a management process that we need to know who is involved in it. So we need the 3 Ps, processes, policies and procedures. We need auditing, we need reporting, we need training. We then need to make the business adaptable. Now, according to Darwin, if you don't adapt, you die. So you've got to make sure that you are adaptable, that some silly little mistake is not going to knock you over. So you have to have a risk assessment. You have to do your risk management. You have to disaster recovery. You have to have business continuity. You have to have cyber resilience. Now, resilience is sort of a culture of the business. Have you ever seen businesses where the people in the business are getting paid less than what you're paying your troops, but they wouldn't leave because they've got a better deal? That is a culture. And then we've got a compliance. Now, compliance can be your regulatory compliance for the industry you're in, or it can be a government compliance. You need to do HIPAA, or you need to do DSI PCC. So all of those things need to be incorporated in the compliance component of the business. And then you build the rest of the business, or the rest of the security envelope around those requirements. These 4 components working together create a holistic security envelope. It creates a holistic structure that builds a secure environment for your business. Now, it builds it from scratch. You look at it and go, well, we've got a firewall. Okay, we need a policy. Okay, what about a password policy? Or what about a BYOD policy? Or what about internet use policy? All of those things can then start making a more secure environment, on the condition that everybody knows what you're doing. So it tightens up as you add specific components to it. So we've got a firewall. 12 months later, we had a better firewall with more functionality, with more features. So you've just tightened up the security. We can then add different components to it so that we can make sure that those things are working. Most frameworks are produced by a company that say, if you buy my widget, you will be secure. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. So from Cisco and Fortinet and Juniper to D-Link and Netcom, just because you've got one of their devices in your system does not make it secure. There are so many ways around that one piece of device that you got in there. So when you put in that one piece, you're not being holistic. You're just reacting to a specific environment that you want to protect yourself against. But a good framework has to have certain features. It has to be agnostic. No one thing is going to do the job. One thing from any supplier can do the job that you want it to do. Each piece is a piece in a puzzle, and it is a large puzzle with a very defined goal: protect the business. The more you spend, the better the features and the better the solutions. But you can start with the most basic of the components. So, as I said, you can buy a cheap firewall on the condition that you're going to, when you start putting all the other things in place, that you upgrade it to the next best thing. It has to be manageable. Like most things in business, you have to be able to measure the process. You need to have checks and balances in place so that crucial and critical data is not lost, misplaced or stolen. You have to have some level of ROI, return of investment. Although, like insurance, this is a very difficult area to define and calculate. Each framework has to build defence in depth. Each component needs to add and build up to strength the environment. Each component has to support the other components of the framework. And each additional component has to be stronger than its predecessor. And most importantly, this framework has to be stable. The framework should have the flexibility but also the strength to protect your business. And the framework has to work. With each piece of these data, there has to be accountability. Each component has to strengthen the whole, not create problems and holes in the security. Cybersecurity is not someone else's problem. Cybersecurity is not just an IT problem. Cybersecurity is a whole of business problem that needs a whole of business solution. And more importantly, cybersecurity is a management role for C-level execs and board members. They have to get involved. An IT manager can do so much with his resources. He can come to the board or management and say, we need to do this, and that's where it becomes a management problem. But it's not just up to them. Everybody is responsible. If you see something wrong, say something. In most cases, the people at the coalface, the ones who are front-facing, they are the receptionists or they are the salespeople on the floor. They are the people who will notice something different or something that is happening that maybe isn't being noticed by someone else. Use a mantra. Cybersecurity is my problem is my mantra. I have to look at it in that context. Cybersecurity is my problem. I am the master of my own destiny. Cybersecurity is my problem, and if I want protection, I have to be the one protecting. I don't rely on someone else to do it for me. And cybersecurity is my problem, and I have to protect myself and not rely on others to do that for me. So, at home, I install antivirus. I don't go to websites that I know may be a problem. That type of thing is where cybersecurity is my problem. So the first steps. For a business, do an audit. This is absolutely necessary because it gives you a cybersecurity baseline. Where you are, what you need to spend, where you need to go. It gives you facts and figures and not just hearsay and mumbo jumbo which the IT world is full of. Management can then make fact-based decisions based on the audit that has been done. And you can see where you need to spend your money. And management can see what is needed to ensure the business viability. So they can see that if they're going to protect the client's information that is on their system, how are they going to do it? If they need to protect your price book, how are they going to do it? One of the big things that you can do is train your staff. Get your staff to understand what they need to help themselves before they can help you. Start with some type of training package and continue that training. Not just one-off and don't worry about it afterwards. You have to indoctrinate them in your culture. This is what we do here. This is why we do it. This is how we protect ourselves and our business. So use technology, run competitions. Get them thinking about how they can protect themselves. If they protect themselves, the afterflow of that is they'll protect your business. These are the basic things that you need to have in place that will protect people from the start. Use strong passwords. Now, strong passwords are critical. Your password on the internet or on your system is literally your signature. You wouldn't give it away to other people, wouldn't show people how to use it. So don't do that with your password. Everywhere you go on the internet, you need a unique password. Not the same one that you're using. So Joe Bloggs is my password is I hate passwords. Alright? That's not a good idea. Use the newest operating systems and applications you can afford and keep them updated. All the applications, all of the operating systems now have an update process, and they are very important for making sure that the viruses don't have holes to exploit in the system. Talking about viruses, use a good antivirus or an endpoint protection process. So malware, spyware, viruses, worms, trojans have to be detected somehow. Make everybody paranoid. I know paranoid's a bad thing, but on the internet paranoid's a really good thing. And make everybody use common sense. I got an email. Is it a good email? Is it a bad email? What am I looking at to make sure that I'm not going to get ripped off? So if you need help, fill in the form. We'll quite happily come and discuss your personal requirements. If you want something that has something to do with training, go to securitypolicytraining.com.au and sign up for the basic cyber security awareness course. Now, it takes you through what I've just said. How to build passwords, how to understand the internet, what things to look for on email. All of those things that really make your staff a lot more aware. And if you drop me an email, I will quite happily give you a code where you can do it for free and see what it's like. So the most important thing you can do for your business and to protect yourself is get involved. Be seen to be doing something. Be seen to be managing what is happening. Talk the talk, but also walk the walk. Thank you very much.